Welcome to 5 Points Blues presentation of Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Here are your hosts, Nikki Harrison and Kristi Scales.
Welcome to 5 Points Blue, Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but we're too afraid to ask. I'm here with Nikki Harrison, here with Kristi Scales. Thank you for watching, tuning in today. It's just the two of us, so we're going to have a little girl chat.
Well, it's just been so crazy. What a crazy week. And thanks to all the folks who have already sent in questions this past week. We have stuff about Jason Witten, of course, and where the Cowboys are going to go forward with Jason retiring. And then, of course, I've had a very busy weekend judging Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader Auditions. And so thank you to the people who have tweeted or emailed us with questions about auditions.
Yes, so the phones are open. The lines are open. Give us a call, 888-855-2297. Again, that's 888-855-2297. Last Thursday, something very, very special and pretty spectacular happened here at the Star with Jason Witten formally announcing his retirement. I wasn't actually here, but I watched it live, and it brought tears to my eyes. It really did.
What was so moving for everyone in the building and for the Witten family in particular, but unless you were watching the whole thing streaming, you didn't see that all of the Cowboy employees, and I'm not just talking football operations or the coaches or the teammates, every employee from every department, whether it's merchandising or accounting or marketing or sales or DallasCowboys.com, whatever it was, we were lining the hallways. And originally, the Wittens and the Jones family were supposed to land in the helicopter, the Cowboys helicopter, Air Force One. They're supposed to land on the practice field, and we were going to make a row, kind of like a gauntlet, that they were going to walk past. Instead, because of the inclement weather, we had a lot of lightning and terrible rain earlier in the day. They came through the front door, and now they're walking down the long hallway here.
And look at all those people.
It's called the Star Walk. This is towards the end of the line, and that's where coaches and football operations and teammates had gathered. Behind us, behind the Wittens, further back down is where more of the folks from floors 1, 2, and 3 in marketing and sales and merchandising. And right now the Wittens are getting to the end of the hallway here, and they're going to turn left and head over to the training table, which is our cafeteria area. There were so many people with the Cowboys that wanted to be part of the Jason Witten send-off that we couldn't fit everybody in our press conference room. And so that's why they had to set up something in the training table. And you see Jason Witten speaking here, and on each side of him, on his left side was Jerry Jones, on his right side was Jason Garrett. But Jason spoke for, about 15 minutes or so?
I would say, yeah.
And the whole thing, by the time they got seated at the podium there that had been put up in the training table, it was a good 45 or 50 minutes. You could see Jason Garrett was tearing up there. And when he was telling the story about the Y option and Witten getting up there to address the team, it was very moving. You can see the Jones family there. I was talking with Charlotte this weekend because we're both judges for Dallas Cowboys Cheerleader Auditions, who were just talking about balling and trying to hold it in. So it was very moving, and to see there were so many of the football players that this time of year, they're here at the facility doing their own workouts, and now we're in the official off-season conditioning program. But most of them are usually done morning or midday.
For sure.
And this took place at about, it was probably about 2:30 by the time the press conference actually started. But they either came back up or they stayed extra, and to
be a part of it.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that. It was all of the athletic trainers. It was the equipment guys. Yeah, because everyone has so much respect for Jason, and I thought it was a beautiful send-off.
It really was. And Jerry Jones said it best with, he's going out on his terms. He wasn't traded. He wasn't released. He wasn't cut. He wasn't injured. So to be able to take this next step, be there for his children, for his family, it's really great.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be, we talked about it a little bit last week with Brian Broaddus when we were speculating as to whether or not Jason was going to call it a Cowboys career. And we all knew that it was just a matter of time for the announcement. But I stand by what I said last week. he can talk X's and O's and put it in relatable terms.
Right.
And I think that for Cowboys fans who enjoyed watching Tony Romo this past year because he helped explain the game and we learned more about it as the analysis continued for all 4 quarters, I think it's going to be the same thing with Jason Witten.
For someone like myself, I enjoy. I don't know all the terms and definitions and why we do things. You're teaching me. So when I'm watching it and I listen to Tony Romo and now to Jason Witten, I'm going to enjoy that because I'll be learning.
Exactly. And it's the same thing. The whole point of why we have this podcast and why 5 Points Blue exists is to teach people more about the game, but make it fun, kind of an infotainment kind of thing. Football is not hard. Men created it, so how hard can it be, right? You don't have to be in Mensa to figure it out, but there are some certain terms that you need to learn, like nickel. They're in the nickel defense. Well, that means there are 5 defensive backs instead of 4. 5 nickel. 2 nickel backs makes a dime. Oh, wow.
Exactly. Yes.
If you just know the terms, then you'll enjoy the game so much more. And again, I think that's one of the things with Witten. Jason's going to do it now like Tony, and I think that Troy Aikman and Daryl Johnston really started it off, and they do a great job with that as well.
For sure. Well, since we're talking football, I have a question from Bailey in Nacogdoches. Thank you, Bailey. He wants to know a little bit more about Blake Jarwin and what his role will be with Jason Witten retiring. So tell us, who is Blake Jarwin?
Yeah, Blake Jarwin, he started last season on the practice squad, his rookie year. He's the tight end from Oklahoma State. And right now he's probably number 2 on the depth chart at tight end with Jason Witten retiring. The only tight ends that we have now are Jeff Swaim, who's a veteran, and he was Jason's backup, and James Hanna, but James Hanna retired too. So we're missing the top 2. We're missing Witten and Hanna. So Jeff Swaim goes to number 1 on the depth chart, and Blake Jarwin would be number 2. We also have Rico Gathers. Then, of course, we drafted Dalton Schultz with the second of our 2 fourth-round picks a couple weeks ago in the draft. So Blake Jarwin is really an interesting, I think he's going to be a big-time storyline this year. And here's why. He started his career at Oklahoma State as a wide receiver and was moved to tight end. And so he didn't have to do a lot of like blocking and stuff like that in that offense or at the start of his college career. But talking with Steve Loney, who was our tight ends coach last year but retired, I'm like, how's Jarwin doing as a blocker? He's like, hey, as a willing blocker, needs to work on the technique and bulk up like all rookies have to do. But yeah, he's going to know the assignment and he's going to be able to execute it. They really like him as a receiver. Again, that's his background. But here's the background that people don't know about Blake Jarwin. From the middle of last season on, he was promoted from the practice squad and signed to the 53-man active roster in late October. But he was inactive for all but a couple games. Even though you're on the 53-man roster, it doesn't mean that you're active on game day because only 46 players can be suited up and play in the game. In other words, you have 7 inactives every week.
Really?
You do. So 53 people on the roster, but only 46 get to play. Okay. So if you're inactive that week, the coaches have to turn in a list to the officials, to the NFL, with the players that are inactive that day. So once they're on that list, it's done. You cannot play that day. Even if we had 3 tight ends get hurt, you can't pull. It's not the 12th man of Texas A&M where E. King Gill can run down and go in the game if you want. Anyway, so but when he did get to when he was promoted, one thing that would happen is after practice, after everybody's already headed in and in the showers or having lunch or whatever, Blake Jarwin was out on the practice field with a couple people, with Keith O'Quinn, who was our special teams assistant last year, and now he's the special teams coordinator in place of Rich Bisaccia, who went to Oakland to join the Raiders staff. We do miss Rich. And then Ken Amato, who was an intern last year but is a full-time staffer right now. Ken was a snapper for many years, I think 9 years with the Tennessee Titans. So Blake Jarwin, after practice, was on the field with Keith, with Ken, and with Rich Bisaccia looking on, learning to deep snap. He had never done it before, but the more things you can do. So they actually had Jarwin out there working as a deep snapper, just in case something were to happen to LP Ladisar. And if Jarwin were in the game, then if he were active that day, then he could be the emergency deep snapper. And it's like, Kristi, why are you wasting our time talking about, after practice, emergency deep snapper? Here's the key. This is the key for any veteran media person or observer during off-season and training camp and even after the season begins. How do you know which of the young guys the coaches like? It's the one they're spending time with after practice, or they're getting to do different roles within practice. Giving them reps, even though they may have played left guard in college, they're giving them some reps at right guard and maybe even some at tackle. Maybe they're working them at backup center.
Giving them a little more exposure.
This person may have played, this wide receiver may have played only the X, split end in college, but now they're teaching them the different ones. That you got a kid like Blake Jarwin, we like this kid. Let's give him we need to give him more things to do so that he has value for us has things to do that we could get him on that 46-man. And that's what they were doing with Jarwin, even though he wasn't playing. So when I saw that last year, when it was more than once or twice, when it was every day after practice, it's like they like this kid.
So to speak to that, I've heard the name Rico Gathers a lot. What is going on there?
Well,
I don't see a whole lot of production.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, Rico had missed all of last season with a concussion, and he was so productive and made some highlight plays in preseason until he suffered the concussion. It was actually in practice. I believe it was a collision out there in Oxnard with Kayvon Frazier, if I remember correctly, and he didn't get on the field, didn't even get on the practice field after that.
Gotcha.
And so that's a storyline too. I mean, tight end with Jason Witten's retirement and James Hanna as well. And you've got the kid, the fourth rounder, Dalton Schultz coming in, and then Swaim and Gathers, and
it's not a lot.
And Rico. Well, I mean, it's.
Is that considered a lot?
Let's just say no, because all the guys that I've mentioned, they have a combined 9 catches for 96 yards in their entire careers.
Wow. That's not a lot.
So what that tells me, I think you're going to see a lot of double slots with wide receivers, right? And maybe a little more open offense. But the thing is, a kid like Jarwin or a kid like Rico, I mean, he's got all the physical tools in the world, but when the Cowboys play a 12 package, when they want to run the ball, and 12 is when you have one running back and 2 tight ends. You don't have a fullback. You would have one running back, Zeke, and 2 tight ends to block. In the past, it would be Witten and Hanna. Now it's going to be Swaim and Jarwin, Swaim and Schultz. I mean, Schultz had to do a lot of blocking at Stanford because they run a pro-style offense, and his biggest function there was as a blocker. He didn't get to run down the field and catch the ball a lot like Rob Gronkowski or Tony Gonzalez or Travis Kelce or some of these guys like that.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Still talking football. So I've seen the players out on the field working out, or I'm not going to say practicing really. What are they doing? Is this mandatory? Is it still
It's
voluntary?
not mandatory. We're still in the voluntary time for the veterans. We are in the official off-season conditioning program.
Okay.
And we've been with that for about 3 weeks now. And what that means is they can work on the field and in the weight room with the strength and conditioning coaches.
But still can't really talk to coaches.
Not practice.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And what's really exciting this week is this weekend or coming up, they'll be out on the field, but it's rookie camp. So we'll get
this
to
weekend,
see.
you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's going to be a lot of activity here at the Star, and even on Friday when we'll be able to look outside. You can Nikki has like the perfect office space here because all she has to do is turn, and she can see both of the outdoor practice fields.
But I don't do
prime
that.
real estate.
Don't do that.
Oh no, it's just work. But yeah, the other thing about rookie camp is it's for rookie players and first-year players. Well, what's the difference between a rookie player and a first-year player?
Yep, I was about to ask that.
Well, a rookie is their first time in an NFL camp. I know we're not camp yet, but officially training camp. But it's their first time with an NFL team. A first-year player would be someone who was a rookie a previous year, but didn't make the squad or was on the practice squad and didn't get tenure.
Gotcha.
Didn't get enough playing time or get in enough games. Was inactive, that kind of thing, to build up a year's experience.
Gotcha.
So instead of being a second-year player, they're not a rookie, they're not a second-year player, they're a first-year player.
They're a first-year player. Okay. And so the rookies come in.
The rookies and the first-year players can and so this will be interaction with coaches. It'll be on-field instruction.
Okay.
But it's not going to be hitting.
Right.
So the linemen aren't going to be crunching against each other. There's not going to be tackling.
Because there's no hitting and tackling until training camp, right?
You can do some you can do a little more in mini camp, but yes, training camp where you can actually have full padded practice and have some contact.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But
good.
even there are rules with that. It's, and there are no more two-a-days and stuff like that. But the main thing that the Cowboys staff does now with rookie camp, it's really as much classroom work.
Okay.
And assimilation, trying to get them, let them know what the structure of the day is going to look like, getting the playbooks to them, going through it, getting on the board, meaning teaching them. It's actually an iPad
and I know a lot of
but
people
you know what I mean.
Don't realize how much.
It's
how many meetings these players go to.
Oh my gosh, it's very limited the amount of time that you have on the field during the week. And here's something that's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. It's for a good purpose. It's to reduce injuries and things like that. And it's part of the collective bargaining agreement. But once you get into the regular season, which is 17 weeks because you have 16 regular season games plus your bye week, so 17 weeks, guess how many padded practices you can have in 17 weeks?
Isn't there only 2 per week? Or 3?
Well, 2 per week would be 34.
Oh, you wanted me to do the math.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. As to quote Brad Sham, my colleague, I was told there would be no math involved. But yeah, you would think once or twice a week they could have a padded practice. Once the season begins, through the 17 weeks of the regular season, you can have only 14 padded practices.
Oh, I see.
So
it's not a per week thing. It's just a total number, the whole season.
Right.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
That is something.
So when these old school football guys and gals are like, oh, these people don't know how to tackle anymore.
Because they don't tackle.
Not in practice.
Yeah.
They get to work on technique, but they don't actually get to collide and do things like that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to move us around a little bit because I know you've been super busy with DCC auditions.
Yes.
And you just finished the first and the second round. And it's hard to believe that the finals are this weekend, Friday.
Yes.
So how is it going? I think I actually got a question from Brianna in Ohio. She wants to know, she saw your tweets over the weekend, and she wants to know, how's it going? And have there been any strange stories come out?
Usually a couple each year. So we have a little over 400 applicants this year for auditions. And it's at AT&T Stadium. It's closed to the public. But it's 3 rounds, and the returning veterans, so the DCC who want to come back and do it again this year, they have to re-audition. Just because you were a cheerleader for the Cowboys last year doesn't mean you're automatically a cheerleader this year. But they skip the first 2 rounds. So the first time we will see them will be coming up on Friday in round 3.
Wow.
As for the first 2 rounds, the panel of judges, we invited, after watching everything on Saturday, round 1, the freestyle, 99 contestants, rookie hopefuls, were invited back to round 2 on Sunday. Round 1's very different because it's freestyle. You come out in groups of 5. You introduce yourself to the judges. Hi, I'm Kristi Scales from Dallas, Texas. I'm years old, and I am a broadcaster with the Dallas Cowboys. And, you say something about yourself or your background. Yeah. And that's all the judges know at that point. And then you would do the same. You'd introduce yourself to the judges, and then you take your spot on the dance floor, and the music comes on for 90 seconds. You don't know what the song is going to be. It's going to be some dance song, a popular song that everyone would know, but you don't know what it's going to be. So you have 90 seconds and your little area of the dance floor to wow the judges.
I think you tweeted out a clip of that particular round happening. And how do you focus on? Does someone just, do something that draws your attention to that one, or are you trying to look at every last single answer? Because I was distracted.
Some of them can be distracting. No, one of the a criterion is showmanship. Do they catch your eye? Okay.
Makes
so
sense.
It's good to be flashy, but in a good way, not in a bad way. We have had people get out there and do the what's it called, the electric eel?
No kidding.
That's not a good. Well, that was several years ago, but that I don't recommend that. But anyway, in my opinion, freestyle is difficult, and as a judge, it's difficult because, some of them are doing 8 counts, and others are just there, deer in the headlights, kind of.
Now, do they know that this is about to happen?
Oh, they of course. They've been readying themselves for that, but doing it in your head and then getting out there in front of judges and the CT,
and other dancers.
The reality show is it's very difficult. But that's all we see as judges in round 1 is the freestyle. You're out there for 90 seconds, and then we put either Y, yes, I want to see them make it to the next round. M, maybe, can't really decide, but. Maybe, let's see. And then N, no, thank you, maybe not this year, but hopefully you come back next year.
Which several have.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to make it on your first try. Most of the DCC try out multiple years.
Multiple times.
And I'm talking about some of our best ones, the ones that you wouldn't believe. I can't believe she didn't make it her first year.
Right.
And so in round 2, when they come back, it's they spend the morning learning DCC choreography and learning the kick line. So as judges, we see them in the afternoon, and they do the combination dance twice and the kick line twice. Again, it's in groups of 5. And our scoring sheet, in addition to showmanship, are they fun to watch? Do they catch your eye? You also have, it says combination / ability to learn. Are they doing all right with the choreography? Are they getting totally lost? It's okay to kind of get lost a little bit. We understand that you've just learned it. But if you're completely lost, there's no way you're going to be able to learn 2 or 3 routines a night during training camp. So you'll get marked down on that. And then with kicks, I know what you're thinking. Because my first year as a judge, 18 years ago, you can either high kick or you can't. I mean, yes or no, that's very easy.
Right.
No, there are high kicks. And then there are DCC or Kilgore Ranger Red or Tyler Junior College Apache Bells high kicks where they can literally touch their nose.
Meanwhile, holding the shoulders
and then going down into the splits. They don't do the jump splits in auditions. They'll learn that in the summer during training camp. But what I loved about this weekend, and my favorite thing about Dallas Cowboys Cheerleaders Auditions and the people who want to be part of America's Sweethearts and represent our brand, of the more than 400 applicants this year, 32 different states represented.
Wow.
77 different universities, coast to coast, from UCLA to Rutgers in New Jersey, or University of Florida and Washington. Actually, more than coast to coast, because we had a young woman from Hawaii, and then we have someone from Japan. And I'm not talking about Yuko, our 2-year veteran, who's from Japan. She is coming back. We'll see her Friday. She's auditioning again to be a 3-year DCC. But we had another young woman. Actually, the last 6 or 7 years, we've had at least one person from Japan. And when I say from Japan, they live there. They fly over for auditions. It's not like, oh, I was born there. And
but
I've lived here
Arkansas
for 20 years. No, they fly in from Japan. Now, we also had, I believe this is the first time we've had someone from Cameroon, which is a country in Africa. And she was actually born there. She's a student at UNT, so she's lived here for a little bit, your alma mater, but from Cameroon, and then also a girl who was originally from Venezuela. So great to have if she makes it, that'd be wonderful. We'd love to have Spanish speakers, on the team. That would be neat. We had a young woman who is not originally from China but speaks fluent Mandarin.
Nice. Lots of diversity.
Lots of diversity. Age range. Our youngest was 18. Right, so we had several 18-year-olds.
Is 18 the youngest?
18 is the minimum.
Okay.
You must be 18 or older on day one of auditions. That's the only requirement, other than if you're from a foreign country, that you could get your visa.
Okay.
And also be working on you don't have to have a college degree, but either be a student or have a job or have your GED. One of our 18-year-olds this year is a legacy, meaning that her mom, Tina Kalina, hi Tina, was a Cowboy cheerleader.
Yeah.
And then our oldest was 47 years old, and she's originally from Kentucky. That's not the oldest we've ever had. We had a 64-year-old.
Now that just makes me feel bad.
And this was also the second time in the 18 years that I've been a judge. I think it's the second time in the history of cheerleader auditions we had a man try out.
Seriously?
Yes, he was really a pretty good dancer.
That's pretty
cool. Good. Yeah.
No
and
idea.
So, but we had so many moms. Mother of 5 who works as a caregiver. We had a U.S. Army veteran who's 30 years old, and she's out of the service now, but works as a director at a nursing home. Oh my gosh, we have lawyers, we have doctors. We're losing Kirsten, one of our veterans from the past 2 years, because she got accepted to medical school. So
awesome.
She's going to pursue that.
Awesome.
These women are so impressive, and they're so smart. I literally lost count. When they would say, I'm, and I'll be graduating next week from University of Florida, summa cum laude, with a degree. And it was at least 20, but I lost count in my notes of how many cum laudes and magna and summas that we had. So it's really a well-rounded group.
So I have one quick question to get in before our time is up. So finals are Friday. It's really gone by fast. I didn't realize it took place so fast. But finals are Friday. And what exactly are you looking for? What would be some advice that you would give to some young ladies that have made it to finals? I'm
going to borrow something from Lauren, one of our returning DCC, who last year was her rookie year, but she had tried, it was like her second or third time to try out. She didn't make it like her first or second time, but she made it. And I actually did a story on her for 5 Points Blue. And I asked her the same thing. What do you tell the girls? And she said, what I do is it's so intimidating and scary when you walk in to auditions, especially finals, when you're seeing the veterans for the first time.
Right.
And it's like, that girl's prettier than me. That girl has better kicks than me. That girl has that dance move, and I don't have that. And she's got better hair, and she's got better makeup. Lauren says, don't focus on that. Realize that the judges and Kelly and Judy and the Cowboys organization are not looking for a certain type. It's a team that we're forming, and just like a football team, where a tight end does something different from a wide receiver than a linebacker than a defensive back, it's the same thing. So we're looking to blend the best talent together. So just because maybe you can't kick as high or you can't do that twirl, that's okay.
Okay.
So what Lauren says is, don't look around and be worried about that. Don't be a second-rate version of somebody else.
Ooh, that's
be
good.
the best version of yourself.
Ooh, that's really good.
And it's good advice,
yes,
not just for DCC auditions, but really anything in life. And the other thing I would mention in regards to finals, they do a solo routine in the morning.
Okay.
So they choose their own choreography, their own dance, a song, their own costume, so we get to see their individuality.
Okay.
They can play to their strength in the morning.
This is where they get to shine.
They can shine individually.
And
then in the afternoon, it's apples to apples, because they're going to be out on the field doing the kick line and the dance combo.
Gotcha.
The same one that was performed in semifinals last Sunday.
Gotcha.
And so, but before that, on Thursday, our panel interviews.
Yes.
We want people who are intelligent and well-spoken, and that's really important.
That is.
There's also a 100-question written test.
100 questions?
100 questions, and it's football, Cowboys history, cheerleader history, current events. For example, who is the director of the FBI, who is leading an investigation? I don't know that that's one of them, but, you need to be, Donald Trump is considering getting out of a deal with which Middle Eastern country.
Wow. So you have
things
to
like
be
that.
aware of current events, history.
There's a lot to it.
Interesting.
And so we know the scores from the panel interviews and the written interviews when the judges deliberate Friday night after the solos and after the
So Friday's going to be a long day.
Friday we'll get out of there. I'll probably get home about 11:15.
And you
night.
start, and you will start.
We start
at...
in the morning, probably about 9 a.m.
Okay.
I always stay for the
day.
end when they get their names called,
Yes.
and you're invited to training camp. And guess what happens after you survive everything? After you go through all 3 rounds and get your name called, and
because it doesn't necessarily mean you're on the team.
It means you've got 3 months of training camp, sister. Good luck. We'll get some of the girls to come in to tell us about the rigors of training camp and what happens beyond what you see on the CMT cameras for the cheerleader show making the team.
I love it. Well, our time is up. It went by fast.
Gosh.
It really did. It went by fast. Well, we thank you for joining us today on 5 Points Blue, Back to the Basics. We'll see you next week.
This has been a production of 5 Points Blue, DallasCowboys.com, and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?